FTCU detailed lessons. You have a Chapter A and B lesson files and Chapter A and B lessons. And I wanted to point this out that you really need to download both links here, because one of them is going to be files or designs that you need to do the lessons with. And then you have the Chapter A and B. These are PDF files that are going to be the instructions. And I'm going to bring it up right now. There's 3 files that you get with this PDF. And the first one is getting started. So this is going to let you know basically what all you need to do before you start doing these lessons, like installing the free monthly software designs, add the lesson folder and its contents. You'll see here, it'll explain how to do it. And load and save a design as a symbol, because we did create a symbol for one of the projects, and we just asked you to load it and save it as a symbol. Pretty simple to do, but this is very important that you do before you get started. And I want to show you Chapter A. What I try to do with this is let you know the types of things that you'll be learning in each lesson. So I broke it down into Lesson 1, things you'll do, Lesson 2, all the way down to Lesson 9, and then you'll see that it starts it up. So you can download this and print it, or you can just have it open on your computer as you work through it. So they're pretty good lessons here. We try to focus on making sure that you utilize most all of the tools, the basic tools of the software, and it will even show you how to do the same thing different ways. So like selecting or grouping and ungrouping, it'll give you different ways to do that so that you can get familiar with everything that you can do with software. So see Chapter B here, same thing. There's a few more lessons in this chapter. There's 14 total. And it's kind of more your intermediate level. The first one was kind of the beginner, and Chapter B is where you get a little bit more in depth, doing things like removing overlaps and working a lot with text, editing the text. There's, so you can see here, but they're really good lessons, and try to explain a lot with them. So hopefully you will utilize those resources that are available to you. And we just posted them on the club maybe a couple weeks ago. So they are brand new, and they're just found right here. So that's what I wanted to show you with resources from the myfloorhandy.club. But during this webinar, we want to focus on things, resources, things that you have available to you in FTCU, and utilizing those things to create designs and to do different things in the software. I am working from a new version that we're working on to update, so hopefully there won't be anything different, going on here, because I am working with the beta version. So first of all, some of the things that I really love about Floriani software is just the many different options that are available, and the many different tools and resources that come loaded in the software. And so one of the first things that I'm going to talk to you about is the custom shapes. And I know that we've seen them before, we've worked with them before, but I want to bring one up here. And there's this icon right up here next to where the text tools are. It's called custom shapes. And when you do that, it brings up all the custom shapes that come with the software. Now, these are vector artwork shapes, meaning they can be modified really easily. They're in a format that works, that you can export for a cutter if you own a cutter. This is the kind of more, it's not working with an image, it's scalable. And one of the designs I want to use, and I'll show you what that means, is Butterfly 002. So I'm going to bring that in. First thing you'll notice is that it has this outline. If I go up in the properties box, we know it's artwork because the artwork tab appears, and you'll see that we have this pin width. It says 2. So what it's saying is it's making that line 2 millimeters in width. And I can take this and I can say, I want it to be really, really thin. And I can do that because it is artwork. Or I could fill it by checking this box in the properties box and click apply, and it will fill that object in with color. So you have, and you can see as I move it as well, you do see that outline. You couldn't do something like this with a photograph or an image. And because it is artwork and it already has that outline that you can see as I'm moving around, I can pretty much do almost anything with it. I'm going to first, with it selected, I'm going to go to the transform box. I'm going to get into inches here. You can see that it's 3 inches wide by almost 3.5. I'm going to make this 4 inches tall, so just a little bit bigger. And just want to show you a few things that you can do with this, with these custom shapes that you get free with the software. Down at the bottom is all your convert tos. We've gone through those a lot in different webinars where you can convert it to a running stitch. As you can see here, that now it's a running stitch, or a motif run. So you can have a motif around the border. Or I can even do a steel stitch. I'm not going to do the satin stitches here because the satin stitches, it would try to apply it from side to side, and it's way too big to be a satin stitch. So we can't really utilize the satin stitch with these. But a fill stitch, I can convert it to a fill stitch, as you can see here. A fancy fill that has kind of a pattern, a gradient, color blend. You kind of get the idea here. One of the things I do want to show you, though, is the applique. I really like working with applique, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go to the properties box and go to the blanket stitch. And I just like the blanket stitch on here. And I like to point out that you do have a fabric icon here, so you can add a fabric to the background. And these all come with the software. You can add fabrics. You can see that when you go into this fabric dialog box, you do have an add button. You can even crop and do all sorts of things. But I'm going to select this rose fabric and just bring that in. You can see that texture right here. And we have kind of talked about applique a little bit, but one of the things I want to make sure I pointed out today is how you change the color of the stitches. So with applique, you can see in my sequence view in the bottom right that you have 3 different stitches. The first one is your placement stitch. The second one is your tack down stitch. And the third one is your border stitch. So let's say that you wanted the border to be kind of a pink color. What I would do is I'd go find a pink color that I like. I might do a little bit more of like a mauve color, but let's see here. I'm going to select this color right here, which is 603, a plum pewter. I'm going to right-click and say Add it to the design page. I'm going to also add this lighter pink color, add it to the design palette, this one as well. So what I want to show you is, if I have this applique selected, let's say that I want the lightest color on here to be color number 1, which is the placement stitch. All I would do is left-click on that color, and you can see that I have color 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to select color 1, and that now applied that color to the placement stitch. So I'm going to select it again, and I'm going to now apply this little bit darker color as the placement stitch, color number 2, and then I'm going to apply this darker one to the outer edge, color number 3. So we can see when I do a slow redraw, You can see that I have the 3 different colors selected. It's really easy to apply different colors to your applique. I want to point that out because I don't know if we've really ever discussed that before. And one of the really, really neat things, by utilizing these custom shapes, the shapes that come with the software, and converting one of them into an applique, is that if you do have a cutter, like a Brother Scan and Cut or a Silhouette cutter or another brand, you can actually export the outline into a format that your cutter will read so that you can cut the exact size needed for the applique. And we did something really unique with the software in that whenever there's applique in a design, if you go to File and Export Artwork, now it's very important when you're going to export artwork for a cutter is that you go to File and you choose Export Artwork. The software knows that what it does, it takes the placement stitch, which is the exact outline of the design, and it exports that as either an SVG, an AI, or an FCM. Those of you that have a Brother Scan and Cut know that you utilize a FCM format. Silhouette can utilize the SVG format. So all you do is select the format you want and hit Save, and I have to give it a name, but hit Save and it will actually save that file in that format that you can then take to your cutter and cut that out and actually have it be in the exact size that you need. I love cutters. I've worked with cutters for years, and that's the only way that I'll do applique. It's just so much easier and so much more fun. So I want to point that out. It's really simple to do. Some of the other things that I want to do is I want to take this butterfly and I want to show you what else you can do with it by saving it as a symbol in the software. So I have this applique selected right here. I'm going to now convert it to a running stitch, and I want to come in here and I want to resize this to about 1 inch, maybe 1.25 inches tall. So I'm making this pretty small because symbols are supposed to be kind of small. They're used to embellish designs, to add as decorative elements around it. Let me go ahead and let me just make that 1 inch, make it a little bit smaller in height. So I have this selected. I'm going to zoom in. Now there's a couple things that you can do. The symbol, right now, I have it as a single running stitch. So you can see how it stitches out right here. You do have the ability, if you want, to change that to a bean stitch, like a 3-ply bean, and hit apply. And you'll just see if I go 1 stitch at a time, doing log stitch, you can see that it does a bean stitch, goes forward, back, forward, forward, back, forward. I'm going to select that, and to save it as a symbol, which can be accessed by the Symbols tool, all you do is go to Tools, up at the top, and then select Save Symbol. So Tools, Save Symbol, and when you do that, it's going to bring up your symbols library where you can actually save that. I'm going to call this Butterfly 002 because that's what the artwork was named, and hit Save. And now I'm going to open up a new page, and I'm going to select the Symbols tool, and I'm going to go to the Properties box, and I'm just going to scroll down, and you can see that I have this Butterfly 002, the one I just saved. So with that selected, I can just click on the design page, and it adds that butterfly to the program. I can click as many times as I want, click and drag, make them a little bit bigger, as you can see, and then a right click to turn that tool off. But it's really, really simple to create your own symbols, and it's a really good idea to take those custom shapes you might do it one by one and bring it in software, convert it to a run stitch. Make sure you make them about an inch or so tall, because you want them to be small, and then save it as a symbol. So then whenever you go to the symbols, you have that many more symbols to work with, and they convert really well. And you can see that they're actually really good designs to use as symbols. So I wanted to point that out because that's a really, you can utilize these custom shapes in many different ways. And so I just hope that you will take the time to do something like that, to be able to utilize these in the projects that you do. So I now have it saved as a symbol. Now what can I do with it? So there's a lot of different things that you can do with symbols. The way that I like to utilize them is a lot of times I'll think of things that I want to cover, like a square area or maybe even a quilt block or something like that, where I can take this, and the first thing that comes to mind is utilizing the fling repeat icon. So if I click on that, you can see that it's throwing all these butterflies on the page, and it's telling you it's about 175 millimeters by 159 millimeters, which is about 6 inches or so, a little bit more than that. But you can change the template size. But one of the things I want to point out with this is more your minimum scale and your maximum scale. If you look at these butterflies, you have some smaller butterflies and larger butterflies. So what this means is it'll make some of these butterflies as small as 80% of their original size or 140% of the original size. So it randomly resizes them as it goes. So I can take this down to 70, and I can boost this up to maybe 180 and hit apply, and you're going to see that I have some even smaller and even larger ones. Now also you have this minimum spacing. What this is doing is it's requiring there to be 10 millimeters between each butterfly. Well, let's say that I want them to be really close. I can just change that to a 1, hit apply, and notice how I have a lot more butterflies on my screen. And I'm just going to keep hitting apply until I find one I like. I actually like this layout right here, and then I'm going to hit OK. And so you can see on the screen that it's a great way to utilize symbols is to use the fling repeat icon. So if I had like a quilt block, it would be great to just use this as like kind of the stippling stitches on top of it. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it. But I'm going to go to undo. The other thing that you can utilize a lot is like your corner repeat or your repeat tool. So this is the repeat tool. I can tell how many I want. I want 6 across and 6 down. I really like this repeat tool. I can put distance horizontally between them and vertically, so it spreads them out a little bit. But what I really love is being able to flip every other one vertically, so I can have them going different directions. I really like this feature of the software. And again, you can utilize this on things like quilt blocks and stuff like that too. I'm going to go ahead and undo. You also have the ability to utilize your corner repeats tool. And this one, to me, again, is a lot of fun. I play around with the angle a lot. You can see if I'm going up, it's changing the angles, making the butterflies kind of at the top and bottom fly towards each other. But I can also go the opposite direction. And you'll see that when I do that, I can have them like all flying to the different corners. And I really like that feature of the software. So you can see there that really easily you can find a bunch of different ways to utilize these symbols. And let's see here. So that's a few of those things. What else I wanted to show you is utilizing some of the things you can do to utilize your free monthly designs. As you know, we give you 5 designs every month free, and we have some designs we've done, this month. If you haven't downloaded them yet, I really like this month's designs. They are applique designs, and they're these different Christmas trees. And I think that they came out really, really good. I can bring one onto the screen here. Now you'll notice that you don't see anything behind here. These are applique, so we do have, you would have fabric underneath, but the Christmas trees are just really, really neat designs. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new page here. I'm going to go to the library. One of the designs I want to bring up and show you is back in May 2010, there was a design in here that is kind of a corner design. And corner designs can be a lot of fun. And I'll show you why. Inside the software, we have the feature called Circle Template. And if you haven't seen this before, it's a lot of fun. It's really neat to take a corner design and see all the different things you can do with it with the corner repeat. So you can see here on the screen, I took that one design and now it's made a circular design with it. And it's made 6 of them, and it's placed them as close as they can be together. And I love this feature for these corner designs. I want to show you, though, what you can do with the angle. So if I go to the angle and I just kind of click in, as my computer's going slow with the webinar going on, but you can see, let me just go to here and type in 10. You can see I'm kind of angling it a little bit. Let me go to 30. And you can see it in this area right here. So there's another one right there. At 30, you can see how much different that design looks just by playing with that angle setting. Now, I look at this and I think, wow, I would love to do something like this and maybe have a monogram right in the middle of it. And so I can hit OK and bring this design in, and now I'm basically ready that I can just drop a monogram right in the middle of it. So it's just one of those things that you can do. It's kind of neat. Let's see here. And so if you wanted to do a monogram, you'll be able to see that this is kind of a larger design. So I probably wouldn't use like the monogram tool per se. Let's see, we're at, a little over 8 inches. I can make this a little bit smaller, but what I would utilize with it is probably Applique, utilizing a true type font. So in the software, the true type text, how you access it is this icon right here where it says import TTF. And let's just say I'm going to put an A for Anderson. I'm going to select this. I'm going to choose a bold font. So I'm just going to use Arial. I could even do this cartoon. That might be fun. And hit OK. And it's going to load that in here. And because it's artwork, true type text is artwork, I can make it as large as I want. And let's say that would be a pretty good size right there. And then I can just come right down and convert that to Applique. And I know that I'll want to utilize probably a blanket stitch. So I like the blanket stitch. I'll probably throw a fabric in there. Apply there. And you can see how you could quickly make a design utilizing one of the free monthly designs, find a corner one or something else, and just do simple things like circle template or anything like that to kind of use it as an embellishment for a design. So really simple, easy to do, and just wanted to show that. Now, since we're getting close to the holiday season, I thought it would be fun to show you a little trick that somebody came up with a couple years ago when working with text. I actually saw a project done utilizing this technique, and it was amazing. What it was a Christmas tree skirt, and this Christmas tree skirt had every single one of the grandchildren and children's names on it, and they were done in the shape of a snowflake. And so I wanted to show you how simple and easy it is to take a name and turn it into a snowflake in the software. So these are just little tricks that utilizing the software for what it can do. It's not requiring you to have any other design. You're just utilizing what's available in the program itself. And so I brought in this text by using the text tool. I'm just going to type the name, let's see, Tammy. I'm going to utilize this area font because I like it that it has scrolls to it. I'm going to hit apply. So you can see that I have the name Tammy here, and there's only a couple little things that you do in the software to turn it into a snowflake design. First thing I want to do, though, I want to make it a lighter blue color, just because it's kind of more Christmassy, I guess. Like I tend to think of the light blue as kind of like icy color. But anyways, I'm going to select it. I only have to do a couple things. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. So I just made a duplicate of it. You can see that in my sequence view here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to my flip horizontal, or flip vertical, I mean. I'm going to click the flip vertical, and then I'm going to drag it down so that I have one on top of the other, but they're in a mirrored, kind of a mirrored image of each other. And that's all I have to do. Select them, and I'm going to click the circle template again. And you can see on the screen right here, I could utilize it just like this, making the little snowflake. I don't have to make any adjustments to it if I don't want to. I could change the angle, and it will change the look of it quite a bit. Sorry, this goes a little bit slower during a webinar, but I'll have to give it a second here before I can go on. So you can see it makes a really, really neat snowflake look. And I'm going to go ahead and change it back to 0 and apply. So I want to show you what it looks like if I bring it into the software. So you can see that's how the design comes in. I'm going to hit undo, and I want to show you another little trick that you can do. So you saw what it looked like. Let me just duplicate that one time, and then I'm going to take it into another page. And group that. I'm going to take this, try to get them both here. I'm going to copy them and put them into a new page so that you can see. What I'm going to do is just flip it horizontally. So right now, actually it is kind of flipped horizontally because it started out like this on our page, and I want them to be going the opposite direction, so I'm going to flip them horizontally. And now I'm going to click the circle template again. And the reason I'm doing this is because you can see now the first letter of the name is on the inside of the snowflake. I'm going to hit OK, and I'll show you the two because I kept the other one open. So this is with the text flipped, and this was the first one we did where the T was on the outside. So just wanted to show you that you can take a name, make a snowflake, But don't forget that you can flip it and make the text go a different direction so that you can get a whole different look with the name. Now, one of the things I will say about this is if you're trying to make something with the names and you want to get a bunch of names onto something, you might want to consider utilizing one of the run stitch fonts or one of the small fonts so that you're not going to have a design that's too large. So you can kind of scroll through, and when you're working with text, any of them that say, like this one right here, has a 6 mm, meaning 6 millimeters in height, it's letting you know that that's a small font. It's going to be at 6 millimeters when you bring it in. So let's take this font, for instance, and you can see that it's automatically going to come in much smaller on my screen here. And this is designed to stitch out at this size, which is tiny. So I can take it, do the same thing, copy, paste, flip one of them vertically, drag it down, select them both. I might want to change the name, right? So it doesn't say my text. So let me go ahead and do that. And you see that I actually did that on both of them at the same time, which is really nice that you can do. So I'm going to take those two, circle template, and I will have to play with the height, bringing them in closer together. Really simple to do, but this will make it a much smaller snowflake, which will allow you to put a lot more on in a smaller area. So just wanted to point that out if you wanted to make a snowflake design with maybe grandchildren or children's name on it. It's a lot of fun to do, pretty simple. So that's one way you can utilize the text in the software. Now, the next thing that I wanted to do was to spend a little bit of time going through these auto-digitizing wizards, or just the wizards, and letting you know what you can do with these and how you would use them. So I'm going to click on the cross-stitch tool, and I'm going to go to Select Image, and I'm going to bring in this horse right here. So let me bring in this horse. I actually really like the cross-stitch tool. I'm going to make this about 150 millimeters wide, though. I'm making it a little bit larger. You can see the preview of it. It's basically letting you know how many colors are in the design. So it sees the white, which is in the background, brown, tan, and black. I'm going to go to Next, and you can see this is what I really like in the software. It actually brings up a grid and kind of shows you where the stitches are going to be in this image. It's going to be falling into these blocks here. And I'm going to go to Next. And this is another feature that I really, really like in the software, is that you do have the ability to outline these colors in black. And that just helps to give a little definition. Now, I obviously don't really care to outline the black eyeball, but I do want to add an outline to this tan and this brown just to make it pop a little bit more. So I'm just going to check the box for this tan and this brown. I'm going to hit Next, and you can see what that did is it actually put an outline around it. So let me go back. With those unchecked, you can see that this is how the design looks. Go back, and let me check this outline and look at just how much more it defines the design. I didn't get the brown, so let me go back. Sorry about that. So you can see what it's going to look like, and I'm not adding the background color. I'm just doing the tan, black, and brown. Hit Finish, and it brings it up in the software. It does a really good job with the cross stitch, and I would just suggest playing around with the designs that come with the software. There's a lot of them here that you can choose, and you can turn them right into cross-stitch designs if you choose, or you can bring in your own designs and do that. These are images. They're like photograph images, even though they're not pictures, but they are in that same format. So it automatically converted them to artwork so that it could fill it with stitches. So the program's really smart. It will automatically do that for you. The cross-stitch tool is a lot of fun to use, and it's very easy to use too. So I'm going to bring up a new page, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to click on the photo stitch wizard. And we get a lot of questions about the photo stitch, and I like to just let people know that, you know, this photo stitch, if we didn't have anything whatsoever in FTCP for photo stitch, we do in FTCU. A lot of people tend to think that it's going to be just like how a couple other programs do it, but that's not the case, and it wasn't intended to be like the other programs out there. So I just wanted to kind of show you a couple things with it. I'm going to select an image, which I'm going to have to go to my computer, and I'm going to bring up this image that's actually shown right here inside of that wizard. Go to Open and Next. So what the first thing is with the software, what you can do with Photo Stitch is you can select an area to crop. So I can crop this design a little bit. Like I can bring it in and say that I only want it to be focusing in this area right here. And I might even want to come up a little bit. So I'm really more focusing on the face area. See how that is? You can see the height and the width here. Whenever you're working with something like a photograph and you're wanting to get some kind of a representation of it, you're going to have to make it a larger design. And so I'm going to make this like 200. Well, I'm going to make the height 200. I might even go down to like 180. That'll make it a little bit smaller than 8 inches. And let me go to, I can transform it. I can edit the image as well if I wanted to kind of combine some colors or something. So you can see that I did crop that image. So you get to the stitch generation part, and this is where you have the ability to make this a black and white photo representation, or you can do the CMYK. And what CMYK stands for is it's like kind of a term where it's like yellow, blue, black, and green. I don't remember what the other one is. I don't know what mine went blank right now. I usually can ramble it off really quick. But the CMYK is an option that will do more with color. You do have this pattern size right here. The default is 3, and I find that that default is actually what I prefer. I don't like it when I change it and make it higher or lower. And so I'm going to just keep that the same. What you do is you click Generate Stitches. And it's not going to look very pretty on the screen right here, obviously, because it's small and you can't really see what it's going to look like yet. Let me go to black and white and show you black and white would be. I can come back to the CMYK, generate those stitches, and hit Finish. Now what this does, you can see over here in the sequence view, is that there's actually like a blue, they have this like purple, pink, yellow, and black. And as I click off, you can see the detail of the face here. And that's kind of why I cropped the image, because I wanted to focus more on this area, and it allowed for the detail to be much better. Now, where people get confused sometimes is they'll go and they'll put it in 3D view, and they'll say, oh, wow, that's just, it's too much. Please note that when you're in 3D view, it's going to make the thread look a little bit thicker than what it actually is. The best way to get an idea for the photo stitch is you really need to stitch it out. And you need to stitch it out in the colors that it recommends, and because it will look different than what you see on the screen. But that's the photo stitch wizard. There's not a lot to it. Some designs or some photos are going to work better than others. And it really has to do with the amount of color and shading on the faces and stuff like that. This one actually works pretty good, and it looks pretty good, but a lot of times you'll get some photos that you just can't get it to look exactly how you like. And I'll be honest with you, I never have really used Photo Stitch before because I like to manually digitize, and I like the look of manually digitized photos, and I know a lot of people that digitize do like it to be manually done, but this is an option, and it does, as you can see here, it's pretty neat. You can play around with it, and like I said, it'll all come down to the image that you're using on how well it comes out in the Photo Stitch area. So, but I did want to take a little bit of time with that. I'm going to go back into it just to go to next, just to cover it again. You do have the ability to transform it, focus in a specific area of the design, which is really nice. You can change the size of it, and that's really recommended. You really want to work with something larger when you're doing this. And I'll do the black and white this time, generate the stitches, hit finish. This is going to throw it right over the top, but let me go ahead and just drag it over so you can see the difference between the black and white and the color. But there's not much you have to do with it. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. There's not all these little tricks that you need to know to do it. You can play around with it. If you didn't like what you saw, you might play around with the pattern size, which is located on the screen. You might make it a little bit larger or smaller. Smaller will make it a little bit more detailed. Larger will kind of make these lines a little bit more apart from each other. So you can just play around with that. I've found that the 3 works pretty well. So that's what I kind of focus on. So that is the Photo Stitch tool. And let me go ahead and bring up another design here, because I do want to show you what you can do with the designs you get in software for like auto digitizing. I'm not going to focus on the auto artwork. I did in another webinar. And the reason is because all of these, this is the auto artwork tool, all of the designs that you see in here, we make them available in a JPEG and a vector version, an artwork version already. So you already have this in an artwork version. So there's no need to really kind of go over that. And you can look at the other webinars to learn more about the auto artwork wizard and the lessons that I explained at the beginning that you can download from the club actually goes into the auto artwork tool as well. So I'm going to come to the wizards. I'm going to come to the auto digitizing, and I want to bring up one of the designs here. I'm just going to bring up this dog because I like this dog here, and I'm going to hit open. And so we're going to turn this photo or this image into a design. Now, one of the things that I want to point out in this is if you look at this design, I'm going to change the height. I'm going to make this about a 4-inch design here. On this page, there's 2 things that I always look for when I'm doing auto digitizing. First is the background color, the color that I want the software to ignore. Now, the thing that you have to keep in mind with this is if this color exists in the design as well, it will remove that color inside of the design as well as background, because what it's doing is if you choose to ignore the background, it's going to ignore anything with that specific color. Okay? So you'll notice right here these eyeballs, that there's these little white dots. So if I come in here, I'll just kind of click through, you can see it finds all the outline. I go to next, and I go to finish. I'll come back and explain more what I was doing. You'll notice that it just kind of left a hole here. And this area right here, it didn't put any white or right here, which you can really kind of see this little hole here. That's because I chose to not use the background color. So let me bring up a new design. Let me come up, and I have that same one selected, that dog. I'm going to make him the same size here, 100. Next. And I'm going to keep this the same. No, actually, this is where I'm going to edit. So the background color here, the only thing that I need to do to get this design ready so that I can get the eyeball as well or ignore it altogether is I click on this Edit Image button. And what this does is this loads Photo Paint. And it's a really simple thing. You don't have to do very much here. But what you want to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to color this white on this eyeball. I'm just going to make it black because this is such a small piece. It probably wouldn't come out great anyways if it was converted to stitches. So I'm going to select the black color, and then I'm just going to click on the paint bucket here. And then I'm going to come down to the eye, and I'm going to click inside of that white circle, and I'm going to click the black around it so that I can make sure that it really is the same color for that entire part. And then I'm going to click the nose and the little piece in the mouth too, just so I can make sure that all those blacks are the same color. That's all I need to do. And I can hit X to close this. When I do, it says, you want to save it? Say, yeah, I want to save it. It's not going to make you save it to a certain thing, but you can see, like, to a different folder. You can see that it actually colored that in. So now when I go to Next, I can choose to leave this background out, and it's not going to affect and create a hole in the eye. So I'm going to hit Next. There's not much to talk about here. Default works really well. Going to go to Next. This is where you get the ability to make some changes. So in the sequencing of the design, do you want to minimize color changes or minimize jumps? I like to minimize color changes because I don't like to change the thread out on my machine a bunch of different times if I don't have to. So I would rather it kind of focus on that. That's the default. And then lock stitches. Lock stitches are those little stitches that take place before a trim, and you usually lock stitches after a trim too with the next object. I don't want everything to be locked in a design. I like to lock around a trim. So if there's a trim that takes place, it'll lock the stitches where they need to be. Now trims, you can have it never trim, always trim, or trim anything that's longer than a certain distance. So this is kind of, a lot of people just kind of click never or always. I'm going to click always just for the heck of it and hit finish. So what it did is it took that photo and it has converted that into stitches. Now one thing that I always do after I convert a design that's auto-digitized is I look at the order in which the design stitches out. And you can see that it does the black eyes, then it's doing the ears, and then the face. Well, that's not the order I actually want it to stitch in. It's pretty close, though. A lot of people would do the face first and then the ears, but if you think about dimensionally, when you're doing digitizing, you like to look at things, what is the furthest thing back? If you were looking at the dog, what would you see first? Well, the nose would be the first thing because it kind of sticks out from the face, then the face, and then the ears would be back a little bit further. So what I would do is I'd come in and I would say the first thing that I want to stitch out is the ears, then the face, then the eyes. So I'm going to select the eyes and the nose and stuff and move it down so that it stitches last. And you can see that when I did that, if I hit undo, you can see how those eyes and everything just kind of pop out a little bit more. Now I have it kind of sequenced where I want. Now you can play with things. You can take this this fill stitch, and you might want to apply a random fill to it. so that it gives it more of a hair look. You can do that to the ears as well. So you can just kind of come in and play with it and get the design how you want it, save it, and stitch it out. But the auto digitizing wizard works really well. The biggest challenge that people have is finding good artwork, because it's all about finding clean images or clean artwork, and you don't want something that's too detailed, because it's harder to get the detail out, especially depending on the size of the design. So the last thing to keep in mind is the size of an image. So I want to point that out again. I'm going to go to the wizard, the auto digitizing wizard, have that same design. Where you change the size of the design is right here. A lot of times if you download something from the internet or you get the picture somewhere, it's going to tell you what the size of it is right here. A lot of times it's really, really small. So if you try to run a design through that's really small, you're not going to get very much detail at all. You want to make it at least about a 4-inch design, possibly start at that. If it's like a really detailed, you might start a little bit larger than that and then maybe resize it later. But 4 inches is about 100 millimeters. So I look at the largest one of the two, and I just change that to 100, and that gets me at the size I want, and that's what I did for this dog. And so that's just another little tip when you're using the auto digitizing wizard, is you might want to focus, make sure you focus on that size that you're starting with. So those are the different things that I wanted to cover in today's webinar. I just wanted to show you what you have in the software and kind of so that you know that you have things you can work with right away. But before I go, I do want to mention, again, this wonderful tool that we added the software in the last update called ColorPlay. ColorPlay is a lot of fun. I do have a different version here, but you can lighten. You can see if I hit lighten, it lightens up the colors. I can darken the colors. It just makes it really, really easy to modify a design and give it a whole different look. So if I hit reset, it'll bring it back to normal. But like one of the things that a lot of people like to do is just make stuff random colors or bright colors, or something that doesn't really fit what the design is. Like this dog, they might make it a little bit more abstract looking. But I want to show you some of those tools. So you do have randomize here that you can kind of just click, and you can see that it will just make a bunch of different color options for you. And actually that one's not too bad right there. I'm going to hit reset. One of the things that you'll be seeing, coming down the road a little bit when we do release another update is this hint feature, which is really cool. So I can say I want this, let's say I had a pink polo shirt and I wanted this dog to be kind of pink in color, to be kind of matching the shirt, making it more tone on tone, so that you can see it, but it doesn't stand out too much, and you really have to look. So if I select that pink and go OK, notice what it does is it actually applies pink colors to it. Now, we have told the software not to change the color of black and white, because a lot of times you need black and white in there. You can come in, though, at that point and change it to something else if you want once you bring it back into the software. But the tint is really cool. The other thing that's really neat is themes. So you have all these different color options that you can select, and it's a lot of fun. Like yellow, it's going to focus on some more yellow colors. Let's see here. Dusky purple. There's just a lot of different themes in here. It's a lot of fun to play with. And so I like to point out this feature of ColorPlay because it's just such an exciting feature, and we have a lot of plans for it, and we hope that you are utilizing it as well, just to see what other options you have for your designs that you already own. And a lot of times just changing the color makes it look like a whole new design. So I do want to thank everyone for attending the webinar today, and I apologize that Kathi Quinn was not able to do it. She had family things that she needed to attend to. And so hopefully this was informative. You learned a lot. And this video will be available on the club within the next 24 to 48 hours. So if you want to watch it again and pick up some of the tips that we discussed, that'll be available to do so. So thank you for attending, and we love doing these webinars for you, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you, and thank you all moderators for your help in answering questions. We'll see you next time.